In this session, we'll create a project using TaxTract. TaxTract imports data from all U.S. federal tax returns, including Form 1120-S for the S Corporation, Form 1040 Schedule C for the sole proprietor, Form 1065 for the partnership, and Form 1120 for the corporation. TaxTract captures data from the income statement or profit and loss, the cost of goods sold from Form 1125A, officer compensation from Form 1125E, other deductions statement, and the balance sheet for up to 5 years. The tax returns include an income statement, typically page 1. We'll gather this information, including the business activity code, the name, address of the company. We'll gather all of the income statement information from page 1, the balance sheet for the most recent year or the ending period, including assets, liabilities, and equity, the cost of goods sold from Form 1125A, officer compensation, and note that we'll provide a redacted name, not the actual name listed on Form 1125E. Then we'll read the other deductions statement, and that's true for the S Corporation, Schedule C, 1040, and it's important to note that the tax forms have different charts of accounts. Most obvious is in the Schedule C for the profit and loss for the business. It uses a distinct chart of accounts and a distinct presentation of other expenses. Form 1065 is similar to Form 1120-S. The income and expense items will vary slightly. The balance sheet will have similar but a few different accounts, and it will have Form 1125A. Officer compensation for the partnership is represented a little bit differently as a guaranteed payment to partners. And other deductions is typically included on Form 1065. The C Corporation has a very similar chart of accounts with a few exceptions, particularly around income. We'll gather the balance sheet for the end of year period, Form 1125A for cost of goods sold, officer compensation, and we'll gather the statement of other deductions. Let's take a look. In BizProValue, we've imported up to 5 years, and so you can see that we have revenue, we have our cost of goods sold with a detail, and we have officer compensation and the redacted names. Then we have all of the chart of accounts, and we use the Form 1125-S as a common chart of accounts for the income statement. And all of the information for all 4 of the forms will flow into these accounts. And here you'll see that we have other deductions. They will be presented in alphabetical order, and the chart of accounts will be aggregated, meaning that in some years they do include that as an account, and perhaps in other years they don't. BizProValue will aggregate that chart of accounts and create a common chart for all years. You'll see that on the income statement, and then the balance sheet information will be presented as well. So let's go to BizProValue and let's create a project. Let's go back to the project list and create project. And here we'll select the method of TaxTract and the upload form. and we can call this a broker opinion of value. The required name is that we entered in the company name, and then the project name, which will automatically populate, I typically use as a redacted name. There may be more information here that's coming specifically from the tax return, but on my projects, I want it to include a redacted name. My report is a changeable name, but I typically start with a broker opinion of value. I select a detail report, and we'll talk about base and detail reports and the degree of specificity that each type of report provides. And I typically round off the numbers. You can present them in actual dollars, meaning you'll have 2 digits to the right of the decimal, and I typically will round those off. So I'm going to select the years, and in this case, let's use 5 years. The form, 1120S. So let's browse our file and find the data. This project. Here's my data. Now it will show a thumbnail and then a large preview of the pages that I wish to gather. I want the income statement, the balance sheet, cost of goods sold, officer compensation form 1125E, and the other deductions. In this case, I have 8 pages. In your project, you may have more than that, 20, 30, 40, 50 pages. You simply identify the target pages that you want to read. And we'll do that for all years. It doesn't matter the order that I select these in. I can select more, but the maximum I can select is 7. So we want to have an idea about the pages that we are looking for. And over time, I've come to know that here's the income statement, the balance sheet looks like this, and so on. And now I'll do my last year. And let's force an error. I'll show you what I mean. I want the 24, but I'm going to upload, by mistake, year 23. And TaxTract will give me a notification that I've already uploaded that file. So I'll come back and upload the correct or select the correct form for 2024. I have the data that I want. And now you can see that I can read these and say, here's my 20, 21, 2, 3, and 4, and the pages that I've selected. Now let's upload the data. TaxTract will upload the forms and start reading those forms. It will create the project, and you'll see an indication here. You'll also see a progress indicator. If you wish, you can work on other projects or other details. You can go out of the program into another application, and TaxTract will continue to read. It happens fairly quickly. The process happens fairly quickly, so I typically stay here and simply wait. And now it indicates that the forms have been scanned successfully, and I have a notification. I'll click on that notification and accept the data. And now in my income statement, I have 5 years worth of data and the balance sheet. I look at the balance sheet and I look for my quality control equation so that assets equal liabilities plus equity, and this number should be 0. There may be some rounding. I may have a dollar rounding error in the tax form. That's okay. Then I come to my income statement, and I typically start in the most recent year. I'll click on the year. I'll hover over the year. I'll click on it, and I'll see the drop-down window. And I scroll down, and I want to see this variance, which means that the data that we imported and calculated, as shown here and here, 1,068,000, is the same as which was also read from the tax return. So that variance is 0. That's good. I'll check for all 4 years. And the same holds true. Great. There we are. Now, we've been given some notifications that TaxTract is saying, okay, there's no data in this account that says 100% of meals, or there's no data in this account that says lease expense, or there's no data here for returns and allowances. So if there's a potential error, TaxTract will indicate that. Then you can go back to your tax return and confirm, or enter a number if something impaired the reading. For example, if there had been a mistake and there was a $100 error, well, it would probably indicate that an error was made. And let's say that there had been returns and allowances, and then I could manually enter that data and resolve the error. Once I've resolved those errors and confirmed it, I come here and click all warnings. Then when I'm looking at the data, the warning indicators are not visible. So here we have 5 years worth of data on the income statement and the balance sheet, and all of the information flows now to all of the modules. So immediately I can see the impact of the data collection. When we come to the income statement, we're typically wanting to make some normalizing adjustments to remove the impact of activities outside of regular operations. And we'll address that in the next chapter. But the focus of this chapter is to indicate how TaxTract can gather data from all 4 tax returns and read the income statement, cost of goods sold, Form 1125E for officer compensation, and all other deductions, and create a common chart of accounts and the balance sheet. And that took about 40 seconds to upload that data.